Welcome to Dramini Fanfic Fanatics. Today you're here with Carrie Ann, Tracy, and Holly. And sorry, that felt like a game show a little bit.
It's okay to be like a game show. It's different.
Anyways, you're here with us, and we're talking about Tea and Necromancy by Save Our Kinship. This is locked on AO3, so you do need to have an account, but get it because it's good. We like it. It is completed 7 chapters, 40,881 words. There is an audio version available out there on Spotify, so if you want to listen to it, you can. I'm just going to put a good blanket warning. This one is darker. And by that,
It's
I mean
heavy.
it has some heavy subjects that are talked about. So please read the tags. And if it is not for you, that is okay. Like some people, you don't need to like every fic that we put out there, just so you know. So if it's not for you, it's not for you. I liked it. I read this twice now.
Me too.
So I loved it. I did.
Yep.
Of course, I didn't read the tags going in.
I
don't
didn't
even
either.
know what the tags are, to be honest. Like, is there any
either.
like reference to it? I was sobbing.
I'm sure there is.
There is
uncontrollably a few times.
There's panic attacks, suicidal ideations. Yeah.
Yep. Ideations.
Physical abuse mentioned, neglect, depression, eating disorders, PTSD, like
gore.
It's just kind of gore.
So,
yeah.
If you are, I'm sensitive to those. I can read them, but I'm sensitive to those. Did not know. I was totally blindsided. So don't be like me. Read the tags.
Yeah.
Read the tags because I
It's
was
so
like,
good
what's
though.
happening?
It was such a feel-good fic by the end of it.
Mhm.
Oh, it leaves you so happy.
Yes.
It's so good. Oh, it was so
The
good.
Draco in this is just one of my favorite Dracos. He's just so soft.
Yep.
But it feels very natural. Like it's not like it's because this is right after the war. This is an 8th year fic, and it's just pure, wholesome Draco that you just want to give him a hug and tell him that everything's gonna be okay and he's a good man and just
yes.
And
It's
this has
hard.
a little knot pop. Just as like a little side pairing.
Yep.
Which we love.
Yes.
We love that here.
We love Not Hot. We also love hating Ron, so this
I
did
know.
have that as well.
I'm glad he wasn't in this.
Me too.
Yeah. Yep. It's hard. I guess that's not really hard, but it's not very often that you find a Draco that's kind of like this, where he's sweet and nice and doesn't feel out of character, because everyone is like obsessed with toxic, like manacled Draco, which is fantastic.
Is great.
We love that.
But we love that.
But like, there's never well, okay, there is like, what's the Batmobile? What's
the Batmobile?
Thank you. The Batmobile. That one, that's not toxic Draco, right? No, he's more,
a soft, good Draco.
He's a soft, good Draco. So it doesn't happen too often, I feel like, but
I don't see a lot of soft Dracos in the 8th year fix.
True.
Because a lot of times he's like working through
it's super
things.
Angsty, yeah.
So this one just kind of,
I feel like
not a ton of angst, but there's just enough to like
not on his
for it to feel normal.
Yeah, I feel like he pushed his angst to the side to try and take care of her.
Oh, it was so sweet.
It was like one of those. So
he was so cute.
So yeah,
he was.
Let's talk about this.
I love that we start out very plainly of I'm dead. Hermione says she's dead.
First freaking sentence, right?
She just says she's dead, and everybody laughs at her. They think she's funny, like, oh, it's just a joke. And Draco notices, though.
She's not laughing. She's just sitting there.
He notices something's off, and he decides to pursue that and goes, okay, what's going on? Something's happening.
I just love how fast he was to notice something, because she's sitting at a table. So because it doesn't explicitly state this, but I'm assuming it's like in the Great Hall for like
that's
a meal
what
time.
I imagined.
And so she's sitting at the table surrounded by all these people. Draco can see from across the room that something's wrong, but like the people that are sitting next to her, like in physical space, are not like picking up on that. And so I just like how fast he like clicked and was like, oh, something's off. And he like just kind of was like, okay, I wonder like what's up. And then it wasn't until the classroom that one of the teachers, I think it was Filch, asked if she like could do it. And she's like, oh, that's not possible. He's like,
Flitwick.
oh, Flitwick.
Yep.
He's like, yes, it is. Like, you just have to do this and grab your wand. And he's like, she doesn't have her wand. She doesn't have her big books and like her bags. And so Draco's like, something's wrong. Like, that was the
and I love, I love the way that she just says too. She's like, I can't perform magic now that I'm dead. And everybody kind of laughs again at her. And, Flit was just kind of like, okay. It's just funny. The dark humor here is
there's a lot of dark humor in this. Which is my cup of tea.
Me too.
Pun intended. Anyways, so when she sneezes, this is what again got me, because she is surrounded by people 24/7. So to get to that point where you are breaking a rib by sneezing, you are not looking like a healthy human. But nobody says anything.
It protrudes out of her.
Yoking out of her. I like,
and she looks at it, covers it up, gets up, and walks out of the great hall.
Blood is dripping.
Draco's following her, like, what the fuck is happening?
And he's like,
oh, she's headed to the hospital wing. Oh wait, no, she's not. Okay, oh, she's headed to the greenhouses. No, she's not. Why is she going to the forest? Like, that boy. Oh, it was so funny. Just, like, following
and that was probably one of my favorite parts, was he's following her this whole way, and she just walks into the forbidden forest. He follows her, and she just drops down into a hole. He walks up, and there she is, laying in a coffin in the forbidden forest. And it's like, what in the world? It's just so funny.
I laughed. He's like,
funny.
What are you doing?
Yes.
She's like, I'm dead. What? And I also loved in this moment, you start to see them interact a little bit more, but she is still her swatty self. Like her dialogue in this, there were so many words I had to look up, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Some of the sentences was like, I don't know what that means. And like, she's talking about her rib, and she's like, my body is secreting my putrefied remains due to a puncture wound I inadvertently caused earlier. Like,
she's so the way she spoke was okay. I did like her in this because, like, okay, this sounds terrible. She was so detached from her normal self that she was able to be a sarcastic asshole, and I loved it.
It's funny.
It was so funny. When I think about it too hard, I get really sad and depressed, but I'm not going to do that right now.
Yeah, because this is a fic.
Not
this is
yet.
Fictional.
Not yet. We'll cry later.
I'll cry about it later. It's fine.
But I just loved how, Slytherin Draco was in this moment to get her to continue to meet him for tea. He was like, if you don't agree, I'm going to stay here and bug you. She's like, okay, fine, leave.
Like, so then I just woke up one day and I knew I was dead. Well, that's not entirely accurate. Blah, blah, blah. Hang on. It was really funny. So I concluded, I haven't seen her since, her therapist. For obvious reasons, her saying she's dead, and he's just like, right. It's drawn out here. Right.
I imagine Kronk from the new, like the raw.
Oh my god.
We need to make a TikTok for that.
Oh my god, that'll be hilarious. Okay.
I just loved this. And then again, he's one of the few people that's noticing she's not eating. So he starts putting meeting for tea. He's putting sustenance potions and trying. If you catch on, he was trying to like do it with different teas to like figure out what was like the best and what one would like not taste the worst. And he's like, this one is the worst. And like,
yep. And I loved that he was putting warming charms on her coffin.
Yeah, and putting like wards around her.
He's like, it's about to get cold outside, and she's actually sleeping out here. She's really going to die.
And there's an unmarked tombstone as well, which I guess it didn't really come up again, but
no, just in the beginning. But it was awesome.
I think she put it like it's talked about. He's like,
that's
why?
Right.
Yeah, he's like, why is this empty? She's like, because I don't have magic. And he's like, I don't think that's the full truth. But like, if that's what you're gonna say, I don't know what chapter that's in. But like, they do talk about the headstone.
Yeah, because like she does mention with my last like magic reserves,
I
I
made this.
made
Yeah.
this, you know,
Dug the
and
ground, put the coffin, all that.
such an interesting place she chose though. Why did she choose the Forbidden Forest? You know?
I think it's kind of just she went back to Hogwarts
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
was like,
I
"Oh,
think
where am I
I
going to
have
get
nowhere else
privacy?"
to go.
Yeah, so
that's
she
Okay.
was
been
like, "Oh, I
her
can go here."
place. That's been
Okay.
her home. Her
That's
Which
actual
actually,
a
home.
good point.
yeah,
Especially
I
what
was
we
going to
learn
say
later. So
with
Yep.
some stuff that comes up later.
Yep.
Yeah.
That killed me. Yeah.
So anyways, chapter 1 was funny. I had the funniest. There were two quotes that were said. One was by Hermione. She's like, "I'm dead and you're delusional. A fabulous pair we make." I love that. And then the other one was he didn't actually say it, but it was like a monologue thing. She had to stay alive and be miserable. If he had to, she had to too.
Yes, I loved that.
Me too. I agree.
Uh-huh. There was a part I don't think I wrote down the exact quote, but um I can't remember what was happening, but he didn't have to thank her since she was dead. Like he's
yeah.
feeling those things of just I'm like, that's funny. I felt like that was very Slytherin of him.
Yeah,
He
he was
kept his
talking
Slytherin
about how
attributes.
he had to come back to Hogwarts for like
He
probation.
had to,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it
hmm
was because of Harry, but Harry's whole testimony was given to him by Hermione. And so you find out she was in the stands, like mouthing the words along. And so he was like, I never thanked her, but she's dead, so I
Didn't
don't
have
have to
to.
now.
Yep.
I just came upon the you can't use magic. How did your grave, coffin, and tombstone get here? I used the last of my residual energy and my magical reserves. So yeah, that's in chapter 1.
Squat.
Yep, yep, exactly.
And then she
Uh,
also has thoughts of becoming the internet. I loved that they threw that in there. She was like, well, there's all these muggle adaptations of like the higher intelligence, you know, is alive or whatever. She's like, maybe I'll become the internet. Did you catch that? That was
Yeah, and
funny.
Draco's like, what? She's like,
Yeah.
I
oh
don't worry
yeah,
about it.
don't worry, it's fine.
That was funny.
So yeah.
Uh,
I really
so
I just liked chapter 1 was like I feel like a really good introduction to like the tone
hmm
of this.
yeah,
It didn't get quite as dark as it does in a couple chapters, but you can tell that there
Yeah.
are underlying themes that are going
yeah.
on, and it's a
It
good introduction.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to know
But
kind of what's
something
going
happened to
on.
her.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's also in chapter 1 because that's I have it written down on here. Theo and Harry with a little heart. It's so it had to have been mentioned in chapter 1. I do remember them talking about Theo helping them, Harry and Hermione for
Mhm.
Draco's thingamabob, and they grew closer. And I just immediately went, not pot, not
Yeah.
Yep.
just
hmm
so I
Yep.
love not pot.
And
And
Draco was I loved how he reacted. He's like, "Well, good for him. If he's like if he's but cuz she was like, "Oh yeah, he's pretty much moved in and didn't like
mhm.
leave." And he's like, yeah, that's how he is." He just like accepted it. No,
He
he's a
also
good
said,
friend.
he's or he's always had terrible taste. So,
That's funny.
um, I did okay, sorry, still with chapter 1. This is where Ron and you actually hate Ginny in this one too, or at
Yep,
least I
you
did.
do. Yeah.
Because Ron, it's been awkward since the breakup. He is no longer in aura training. He's going with George, which is whatever, but he just doesn't care about her anymore. Like I guess it was just blah. And then Ginny blamed her, wasn't
Yep.
it, for
Blamed
their
her for
breakup.
their breakup.
So I'm like,
Because Hermione
mm,
talked not sense into him, but I think just
Was like, "Are you
telling him to,
happy?" Like,
yeah,
"Yeah." Like, "Are you good?" And he was probably like, not really." She's like, "Then why are you
then why are
here?"
you here? Yeah.
yeah,
As a friend does.
yeah.
So yeah, that's when I was like, oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay. I hate them. So anyway.
I was gonna say, going on that, it continues into chapter 2. You
Hmm.
continue to hate Ron because Draco, being the sweetheart he is, little softy, ends up doing a bunch of stuff to try to get Hermione help. He ends up owling,
Yes.
like sending Harry, Ginny, and Ron
Yep.
letters, talks to the other Gryffindors, and talks to McGonagall and Madame Pomfrey to like
Yeah.
try to get help.
Hmm.
And Ron
Ron didn't even open it. He sent
Yeah.
it back.
And he just
And then
wrote
he sent
on
it.
it.
Yeah. I don't. What did he say?
He's like, I don't care what you have to say.
Yeah.
Don't bother me again or something like that.
And then Ginny responded, well,
I
because
burned
he
it.
sent it to first. He sent it first to Ron, and then just
Yes.
immediately sent it off to Ginny. And then she responded, I burned this. I don't want, like, I don't give a crap. And then he's like, oh my God, these fucking people, and sent it to Harry and didn't get a response for weeks. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, things happen. McGonagall didn't even, I get that she's like
So
new headmistress, but I didn't like that she didn't care as much as I wanted her to.
she's the only adult the only person in person, I will say,
Yes.
that was like, oh, okay, like how long has this been going on? And like, what are you seeing? And like actually walked with him because he was gonna show her
Yeah.
the coffin. And when Hermione came out, she made a joke. She said,
Yep.
do I look dead to you? And instead of being an adult and looking with your eyes at a person who is
Right.
physically ill,
Yep.
like again, to break a rib by sneezing is not
Yep.
like that. You have to be pretty freaking malnourished. She instead laughed and walked away. Like that was
Yep.
what is like. And Draco even made a comment of like, I don't really trust adults because they have not proven to be helpful. Like,
Yeah.
again, here we are in this situation. It's like, just look at her. Look at her. And then
Yeah, it was sad.
later in the Great Hall, when Hermione comes and like sits by him and he's like making her eat, he looks up and McGonagall nods at him. I would have been like, fuck you.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
I told
Yeah.
you to come help, and now you're like putting it on me. Like, no.
He even says that, like, oh, the fact that they're trusting me with this, like, holy fuck. And so,
Yeah. Yep.
she does mention she wants her body to disintegrate to be free from her torment. That right there, I just put fuck right after that.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time I shed tears because I was like, oh, so
Yes.
she's fucking depressed. And I
Yep.
got really upset. So
Very.
that
Yep.
was the very first, like, oh no, from
Yep.
me. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, so it's not necessarily, because at first I was kind of like, okay, well maybe it is like some magical like poison, I don't know, from Bellatrix's knife. I have no idea. But as soon as that happened, I went, oh, she's depressed. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, God damn it.
Very.
So
Yep.
it was, I also, again, I didn't read the tags. That's my fault. But the start of chapter 2 does also have a warning at the very top of a panic attack. So it does warn you.
Yeah.
Why?
Tell you
But
something.
anyway, the banter between the two was incredible. The entire time. It did not stop. It was just constant. They were so funny.
It was.
Because the
It really
dark
was
humor
funny.
is funny. Like, that's
Yeah.
why, because he's like, well, you're dead. So, like, she's like, yeah, I am.
I loved it when she was telling him about her third year of like, oh, because she was going through her things. I don't really know what chapter this was on.
That's
I didn't,
later.
Damn it. Well, I'm gonna talk about it anyway. She's going through her things at her grave, going through her bag, and she keeps like some sentimental things. She did mention that she did not keep the time turner, or she couldn't keep the time turner, but
Mhm.
she kept the chain.
Yep.
And talked about third year, and he was like, "Who gave like a time turner?" And she was just so funny of just like it was great. I got to punch you, and then I got to watch myself punch you. So
Yes.
funny. So I often reminisce about it. It was so funny. So anyway,
That's the sad part because he realizes that she's getting her affairs in order with her things.
I'm gonna try not to
Sorry
cry.
that we jumped.
Go ahead. Yeah,
That's
bring
okay.
us back, Carrie Ann.
That's okay. So the third chapter is when Harry responds.
Yes.
And this is also
she's so
after
happy.
this is after he
wait.
slept in the coffin for the first
We
time.
we skipped chapter 2.
No,
We've
I
been
talked about
talking about
chapter
chapter
2.
Did we finish talking about chapter 2?
I don't know. That's all my notes. I don't know.
No, because Theo came up in chapter 2.
Theo is in chapter 3.
In chapter 3 is when they talk about going to Hogsmeade. They talk about going to Hogsmeade to visit Theo the next day, and that's in chapter 2. And then chapter 3, they actually go and visit him.
Okay. She also does say in chapter 2, I think this is where my mind was freaking out. She told him she absolutely knew you were putting shit in my tea, and I knew you were
Yes.
warding. And he's like, "What?" She's like, "I'm not fucking dumb, so
Yeah.
I'm not
He's
stupid."
like, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Me?
Yeah, I thought I was being careful. Yeah, yeah, it was so funny.
It's so
So,
funny. Yes. And
okay,
then they share her coffin. He
yes.
enlarges it
Yeah,
and he
they're
sleeps
like
with her.
they're playing like a game of chicken with each other. And she's like, well, you
Yes.
could stay. And he's like, well, then I will. And she's like, well, get in. He's like,
Mhm.
okay.
It
Just their whole little game is funny. And he like makes a
is.
blanket. And he's like, okay. And then he falls asleep. And he's like, I didn't think I'd actually sleep, but I slept pretty good.
And yep, it's like they both slept very good, which was noted. And so yeah, and I don't. There was like just a random bird. I don't really know why this bird was around, but I thought it was cute. It was just dancing along
Top of the
the
ward.
ward, and she's like, it comes every morning. Like,
That's right.
oh,
Yep.
okay.
She has a little friend.
Okay, little bird friend. Okay, now Theo, that's it.
Okay, thank you. So, chapter 3, before we get to Theo, this is where Harry responds.
Right.
Yep.
Because they're walking back to the castle, and when they get back in after sleeping outside, that's where there's an owl waiting, and he's talking about like, oh, this owl looks annoyed, if it could be annoyed, and like all of this
Yes.
stuff.
It reminded me of Draco. I'm like, it just sounds like a Draco owl.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
And it
in
had
that,
two different
yeah,
letters.
yeah, one
So,
for Hermione and one for Draco, and Draco's
Yep.
was super short. It just said like thank you or
yeah.
something like that. Like it was very short. Hermione got a really long letter, and he just was like, it's personal. So he's like eating food, kind of ignoring her, just letting her
Yes.
read. And this was so sweet. She's like,
It was.
you wrote to Harry? He's like, well, I also wrote to Ginny and Ron. And it's like, but they weren't helpful as
They were
usual.
entirely useless.
And he's like
Oh,
talking. And he's like, don't worry about it. And she's like close to tears. And he's like, okay, well, we're gonna go to Hogsmeade later. So like I have to go shower and like get ready. And she runs up as he's walking away. She runs up to him and hugs him
yes.
from behind.
Yep.
It's like, thank you.
Oh,
And he's
It's
like,
so cute.
okay.
Yes.
oh my God.
It's so cute. And then it goes to like the next paragraph and they're like starting to walk and he's like, she's rambling and he's like, does everybody make you this nervous or is it just me? And he's like
Mhm.
blowing past like the awkwardness of it, which was cute. And they kind of talk about other things because I put this note in between these two, in between like her giving the hug and Theo. So I don't know where it falls in there, but she was talking about Dumbledore and how she thinks that he manipulated them into
Yep.
doing things because of the prophecy.
Hmm.
And they both kind of talked about that for a minute. And we love that here because Dumbledore is like
Yep.
just trash. And so I loved that she was recognizing that and Draco was like, okay, I see that. Makes sense,
On their walk, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
The Mal, I just short circuited. I'm sorry. So she brings up his parents, and oh gosh, she says they seem to care about you an awful lot. Um, and that was kind of the first little
The little
like
foreshadowing we
little
get.
foreshadowing. Not enough to keep a sociopath out of our house. Well, did they have much
Yeah.
of a choice? You kind of had to like think about it, but like she recognizes that
Yes.
like his we all
Yeah.
know that Narcissa will do anything for Draco,
Mhm.
and oh, it just it
And I
hurt.
yeah, she recognizes it and yeah, it does hurt. It hurts later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was the same time, and they were talking about prophecies and how
Yep.
people need to stop believing in prophecies because when you believe in them, that's when they come
Yes.
true because
Yep, because
they
you're
are the
trying
ones
to
doing it.
yep.
And I was just like, ah, stupid Dumbledore. So anyway.
And then this is where they walk in and see Theo. And Theo in this fic
Yes.
is such a good
Uh-huh.
Theo the whole
He was
time.
great.
And especially he's like, he says some insult to Draco. And it's funny because he looks at Hermione and Draco's like, I can tell that he noticed because his like jaw sharpened. So I imagine he just like clenches his teeth.
Clenched.
But
Yep.
he does not act any different to Hermione, but he gives her a hug and he's mouthing over her to Draco, like, what the fuck? And he's
Yes.
like, he's like, I
Just-
told, like,
Yep.
finally somebody else.
Like,
Yep.
and his first words to her was, "You do look utterly fucking dead, Granger. When did that happen?" God,
He
I
was
don't
so
look dead. I am dead.
yeah, he was good because he understood that, like, I think this is where Theo, to me, it showed his intelligence.
Mhm.
Like, he understood that if he were to say, "You're not dead," she's gonna close off. So instead of doing that, he leaned into it and was like, "You do look dead," like, and was like, "Oh, well," and was like making jokes about it. And like, instead of being like, "You need help, you need to like, what's wrong,
Mhm.
tell us," he just was like joking to let her know that it was a safe enough space to do that and to
Right.
let them be
Yeah.
in her life. And so he was, it just showed his like brilliance. And then he even makes her go up and get the drinks and like kind of like a
So he can
joke
talk to
so he can
Yeah.
Draco.
talk to Draco and be like, "What is
Yes.
happening?"
Uh-huh.
I don't know, help.
I like that even Hermione like knows that that's what they're doing too, though.
Yep.
She's like, "I'm not fucking dumb. Like, I know you're talking, but I, I, I do like that Theo does that because they are young people. They are not professionals in any way, shape, or form in to help her. So the only way they can help her, I don't want to say it is play along because that's not what Theo was doing.
But
But
it's to,
it was keeping her like you said,
yeah, so
a
she
safe
doesn't
space.
shut them out. Yeah, like that's the
Exactly.
whole idea, is to get
Yep.
her to be comfortable
hmm
enough with them.
Because I
Mhm.
know it can be like argued that like, well, he's just enabling her. Like, no,
Right.
like I can understand that, but you're not, he's not there. They are not there as her healer. She is not accepting that. She's fully prepared to be done. And so that's the only way they can stay in with her, you know.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I
And
I appreciated it.
you can't do anything to help if you have no idea what has happened. So if
hmm
you can get to the bottom of that, then you can be in a place to help. And the only way you're gonna get to that is if she talks and like like helps you explain. But she's not
Right.
gonna do that if
Nope.
like she shuts down on
Yeah.
you. So like just his Theo in this
Their
was,
approach was better.
yeah, was
Yes,
the
it
way
was.
it just showed his intelligence to
It was
me.
what
hmm
she needed.
Yeah.
Yes. 'Cause yeah, they didn't even really encourage her for they didn't encourage her at all
Yeah.
with
No.
her with like her behaviors. I don't really want to say, but
He talked about like, "Hey, if we're gonna do these things, like you need
you
to
need to
look
stay
healthy."
alive long enough
Yeah,
for
like
us
it's
to
gonna ruin
try.
it if you look dead
Yep.
already. So like you need
hmm
to be eating and like doing what he can do while still making it a safe and like joking about it. Like, "Oh, if we're
Right.
gonna dabble in necromancy, like I want to get my like theatrical fill." So like
That
you
means you
can't,
can't die
yeah,
first.
because he's talking about like the crows pecking at her body, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, you wouldn't take long at all." And it's like, it's like
God.
just the way that he talks about it, I loved Theo. I just put that
hmm
Yes.
out there.
I really loved Theo too.
He was so funny. His
Hmm.
just what he called Draco. I think at one point he called him fuck nuggets. Like I
G
don't remember
Muggle Jesus
everything.
Wank, Muggle Jesus.
I
What did he
don't
Yes.
say?
even know. He was just so funny. Every single time he had a weird
Yes.
a weird intro. So
And he had a thing
uh,
about Muggle religion that he
yeah,
Yeah,
just
because he
liked.
wants he wants to be how do they put it? He wanted to be like sacrilegious in every
Yeah.
major
hmm,
religion or something.
Uh-huh.
That's just
Yes.
really funny. Like, oh, Catholicism. Like, yeah, I need to be this way in all religions.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was so funny. Um, let's see. My notes. I really like stopped at chapter 3 and then
Me
my
too.
notes is 7. So
okay. Well,
Oh,
I
well, I
so
just
have
let me
some.
come
I
in.
have some for each one, but
okay.
they are maybe one
Okay.
Go ahead,
each
Do you have
Carrie.
any
one.
more for 3 before we
Nope.
move on to chapter 4?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so chapter 4, um, there's one quote that I wrote down. This is the quote, the only quote. Again, I've read this twice. I don't remember my reactions the first time, so I don't know if
Yeah.
I cried.
I
But
also have a quote. I wonder if it's the same one.
I was gonna say this is one of the only ones that it was like, oh.
Yes, I bet you it's the same one.
He's talking about, he asks her, he's like, what do you think would happen to me? Like if you died? Like, what am I gonna do when you're gone? And she's like, well, I think you would be fine. Like, it'd be a relief. You don't have to like hang out with me anymore. And he goes, I think I'd feel alone. And she goes, you get used to it. Oh, like,
I didn't write that one down.
oh, okay. Then what did you die? Oh.
I sobbed and put my phone down for a minute
Yeah,
and sobbed and then picked back up.
Yeah. Mine stemmed from, well, I don't know if this was actually the same part. I wrote down, I thought I was really, really upset when she was talking about how she's already made her contributions. She's not going to have any more to make. She
Yeah.
says specifically, I don't have any more contributions to make. And that she's alone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what? You're Hermione Granger. What's wrong? Like, come on. And then I wrote down the quote, you make it easy to say yes.
Oh, yeah.
She has hope with Draco. And it's so sweet. It's so cute because he is just this beautiful, wonderful human being in this fic. And it's just, oh, it's so cute. And yeah, I'm like, obviously she's wanting to give up everything. She's
I think
ready
this
to be
is
dead.
where she was doing her
Yeah.
setting out her affairs.
Yes. Yep.
She
was.
kept the teacup from their first, or was it their first? Just the one that she like.
It was
Yes.
the first time that he brought up her parents.
Yeah.
And so she dumped it out, threw it, and like shut down. But he was like, I'll just leave it because I like the idea of there still being something of me here. And she took it and kept it.
Yep.
And it was one of the few prized possessions that she was going to give to Harry. Like, isn't that so? Like, she didn't keep a lot of stuff. It was some pictures, the gold chain, and the teacup. And even Draco was like, this is all. Like, you, again,
I'm gonna
are
cry
Hermione
too.
Granger. Like, it's so, like, it was just, yeah.
And then chapter 5, are we good to
No,
move to
I'm not
chapter?
done.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
not
sorry.
done,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
No.
Go ahead then.
So chapter.
It's also good to note that he's still sleeping with her in the coffin, by the
Yes.
way. So
she
Every
asks
night.
if he can stay, and so
Yeah.
he stays. This one is where they get letters. Hermione gets another letter from Harry. Draco gets one from Theo, and Theo's talking about like, this is what I'm doing. This is like what Harry's doing. We're trying to find out more
Yes.
information. Like, we're gonna meet with you in the room of requirement. You need to figure out some time to like get away from Hermione. But there was enough humor because like in this note, I wrote this down because it was funny. Theo says, never fear. I am slowly but surely replacing the weasel with a menagerie. Is that how you say that word?
Mhm.
Of potted plants. There is
Yes.
very little difference to be noted intellectually. He's replacing Ron with plants.
Yep.
And he's like, I liked that note because it was cute and it was kind of funny. And he's still insulting Draco and like saying things. And then Hermione's like, oh, yeah, Harry said that you guys were going to be, doing this. And he's like, oh, sweet. Harry already I don't have to think about like an excuse to like be away from her. And like, it was just, I loved that.
Mm-hmm. I did like how Theo, again, to Draco, for Draco's note, started it with salutations and whatnot, went a whole big spiel about like what they were going to be doing. And he just ends it with, yours almost sincerely, the light of your fucking life, be it or not. He's just so, he was, I think, the only thing that kept me sane this whole time.
He
'cause I
definitely
so
was like
upset,
the relief.
and then I'd laugh.
Like
Yes.
the comic
Yep.
relief, because Draco
Mhm.
there's not funny in between like him and Hermione. It's but it's cute.
Yeah.
So it's like you get kind of everything. It was cute. Okay, I'm done with my notes from chapter 4. Anybody else? Because chapter 5 is where they actually meet in the room of requirement.
And chapter 5 is actually, so the beginning of chapter 5 is when she's actually getting her affairs in order. That's what I wrote down for chapter
Okay.
5. But
My bad.
no, it's fine.
My B.
But then yes, they meet in the room of requirement and they kind of go through some stuff.
Well, I want to start before we get into that.
Yep.
I thought it was so funny. So Theo is not in the room when Draco walks in, and it's just Harry. And he's like, Theo is doing this on purpose. Like, he's like, I know Theo. Like, he's like leaving me a couple minutes alone with him. And so he's like trying to like talk to him. And he's like, he can notice that like Harry's style and like he looks nicer.
I was gonna say he noticed his hair was nice.
But then they're watching the map and they notice Theo start to come back. So Harry starts messing himself up. And he's like, put some ink on your face. It's gonna drive him crazy.
And he doesn't really believe him. He's like, just do it, Potter.
Just do
So
it. And
he
so he like
does.
hesitantly does it.
Yes.
Theo comes in. I haven't even been gone 5 minutes. It's like,
It was
He so
awesome.
I loved that. I do want to note our last not appointment. I don't know where that word came from. Our last episode, there was a word that I still I'm convinced I'm saying it right and you guys are saying it wrong. Theo was dwaddling.
I knew
Okay?
that was coming. I
Theo
knew
was
that was the word.
dwaddling.
No.
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 Waddling. Oh man.
I just want it
Oh.
out there. Okay. This fic had a lot of words for me, a lot of big words. And that was the one that I knew.
Did they say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wrote it down in big capital letters in my notes
Good.
too, so you
Dead.
guys would I would know.
I'm glad you did.
See, when I was listening to it, they pronounced it correctly. So,
well,
maybe it was
incorrectly, but
just...
whatever. Whatever. Okay, so
man.
chapter 5, I will say, is one of the heaviest chapters because this is where you learn a lot. And so,
oh, it hurts.
I'm gonna put myself on mute in case I cry.
This is where they're trying to. The whole goal is to try to figure out what happened, so then they can move forward and try to fix Hermione. So Draco realizes this was actually talked about back at in Hogsmeade. He was like, well, what are her triggers? And he immediately was like, oh, she shut down when I talked about her parents. So Harry has been trying to figure out and get to the bottom of like what happened with her parents. And Theo ends up stealing her therapy notes. And, it's a big no-no. We don't condone this. Anybody listening, don't, big violation. But for the sake of this story, it was important because she was never going to open up about it. She thinks she's already dead. Like at that point, it's like she was never gonna relive that willingly, so they needed to know that. So anyways, so they're reading through it, and Harry was very specific. He was having a hard time with like, again, he's like, this is a big invasion of privacy, and Theo is kind of like, I know, but think about like
we have to help her.
Yeah, we have to help her, and so he agrees as long as he's the only one reading it, and he'll read it out loud. And Theo even was like, we can, search through the notes and only find things that are relating to parents specifically. So they're not looking at everything that she's talking about. And so anyways, so Harry's like reading through and you get to the first one where it's just they read, I don't even know how many they read, but like the progression of them is rough. And they are having these feelings between them, like fights and things like that. But we'll get to that in a minute because that's good. But like, you find out, this is where you find out she was neglected. And Draco's starting to piece together little things from conversations past about like, oh, it didn't matter if I spoke or not.
Yeah.
I just didn't speak when she was like talking about a kid. It's like, oh, seems like your parents cared a lot about you. And like, he's like clicking and he's like, oh my God. Like I didn't ever put it together. And then you find out that after she obliviated them, she brought them back to St. Mungo's and like, they reversed the obliviation. And then the parents, did it say sue? Was that? I don't remember if it said
press charges.
They were pressing charges for abuse from Hermione.
Yeah.
And he's like, abuse from her, and it's all about the power. And then you find out they don't want to stay. They don't want to have any contact with Hermione.
They want to be re-obliviated. And move back to Australia.
It's disgusting.
There was more buildup that I'm glad that Karen didn't say all of it.
I was gonna say I just blew past things.
I would have cried, but yeah, it had neglect, like, and it even kind of made sense. It tied into like the books and the movies. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, after some of the injuries when parents were called, and even Harry's like, huh, that means that the whatever. I can't say
Dursleys.
the last. Dursleys.
Yeah.
My words are so... Anyways, she's like, they probably would have gotten notes too. They probably just hoped I died.
Yeah. I mean, they did, but...
Yeah. And so, it's while they're like talking about this that Draco and Harry kind of have a little fight, a little moment where they're like kind of yelling at each other.
Mhm.
Because Harry doesn't quite understand like why Draco's feeling this way, but Theo does because he's like noticing that like he's in love with Hermione. And so Draco's just like, you know how you hurt when someone you love hurts and you like
Hold
you
my
want to take
hand.
that pain?
Yep.
That's what he was feeling. And so he's just mad and Harry's mad and they're both like trying to deal with these feelings. They have a little fight and then Draco just like storms out. He's like, I've got to go. And he is like pacing through the castle and he's like, angry, you're like trying to work off some steam. He goes right up to Hermione in the coffin, lifts her up and kisses her. And it's not a cute kiss, the first one. It's like, it's like, like an angry.
Yep.
And she's like, what? And this is where he says her name for the first time. He says
Yep.
Hermione and then they kiss
That's
again.
what we all wait for. We all
And then
hope for it in every
that's where it's
fic.
the cute, sweet kiss. And she's like pulling him closer and it's this cute little kiss and it's just sweet. And that's where it like they don't do anything. They just kiss and then they go to bed. Okay. Cute.
It is. It's sweet.
That's the last of my notes for chapter 5. Because then chapter 6, it starts with them waking up after that kiss. So if there's anything else anybody would like to add for chapter 5, this is the moment before I blow past it.
Nope, that's it.
I don't think so.
I was gonna say chapter 5 is the heaviest.
Yep.
But I do want to note that in chapter 5, this is also where it was mentioned that she has one of the therapy notes is talking about how she feels like if she is not helping or giving, that
She
there
doesn't
is
deserve the
yeah,
friendship.
she doesn't like she has to be contributing something for anything to happen. It's for like friendships, for relationships, for things like that. And so for her to
Like they're only using her basically.
yeah, she's only useful for her brain is like the big part. So anyways, that comes into play later. So then chapter 6, they wake up in the morning and I thought it was really cute. Draco wakes up and he's like, I have a feeling that she's going to wake up and not understand the like, I wanted to do this. I want to be here. And even she like tenses up until he like starts to like, I think rub her neck or something.
Yeah, he was like
Mhm.
caressing her
Yeah.
neck
Yes.
with his
And then
thumb or
she
something.
immediately like
Relaxed.
relaxes. And then they have a pretty healthy, I thought it was a pretty good conversation. They talk about like, he's like, I want to do this, but if you've already given up, like I can't do this. He talks about he
Yep.
uses the sinking and drowning analogy, which
Oh, yeah.
I loved this. He was like, if you are drowning, there is no hope. You're just going down. But if I'm sinking, there is a hope that I could come back up.
Yep.
And so he's like, if I don't want to drown, but like if you are just sinking, like I will sink with you. And she was very mature and very understanding that he was just trying to, save his heart. And they were, I just loved that conversation. It was
Yeah.
very like mature of them.
It
Because
was.
again, they are like 18, 19-year-olds. Like she thinks she's dead. Like
Yeah.
that level of like conversation is just, and that's where she finally says like, I have hope. I want to be here with you. And they're kind of like, okay. And he's like, this isn't us now. We are a thing. And she's like, okay. And just like, they just accept it.
And I do want to point out that we do understand that it's not necessarily how like the way how do I want to say this? Like I understand that like it having a significant other, like he's not like just trying to save her. Like you do have to, like she does have to save herself,
Mhm.
which is what
She has to
they
want
do
it.
end up, and she does end up wanting it,
Yeah.
and it's not just in like for Draco, because
Yeah.
I immediately kind of latched onto that. I was like, I don't like that, and then I
Right.
was like, oh well, if I kept reading, I wouldn't have been upset. But like, don't do that. We know that's not healthy. So anyway, okay, now continue.
So then in this later, after that moment, they wake up and they find a note from Theo that says like, hey, we're gonna have brunch. Come meet us at 11. And he's like, okay. So they go and they have brunch. And this is the first time that Harry is meeting with Hermione in person. They had been sending letters, but because of his Auror training and with school and stuff like that, they just hadn't been able to like meet yet. So they all go. And I thought it was cute. Draco's just like, they're like, she's like leaning in to read the paper. And Harry's just like glaring.
Yeah, they're like touching each other, like,
Yes.
glaring. And Hermione's like, why are you mad?
Right.
Harry. And Draco's like, oh, because of this, as he just like barely touches her. And I love this. She goes, whatever Theo is doing to you under the table is certainly not the worst I've witnessed. And he's like,
Yes.
pushes Theo.
Uh-huh. Oh, it's so funny.
It was cute. And yeah, Theo makes her get up and go get the food. And he even says straight to her face, like, I need to talk about you, not to you. So
Yeah.
go. And she's like, fine, whatever. And this is where he brings out the book, which is just some dark magic book. It doesn't say the name. He has to open it with blood to like get it to like open.
It's bound
And
in human skin.
yeah.
You know,
Yep.
fine.
It's just
Let me tell you something.
creepy book.
I love a good fan fiction with some cultish things in it. Okay. I am all for that. Bring it on. This one, house pet. This too is sacred. That's another really good cultish one. Oh, I really like them.
Good God. Manacled can be put under that, right?
I feel like not as much. I don't know.
I mean, you might have to cut that out, Garion.
Anyways, they are talking about what they want to do, and they find a spell. And I thought this was a really cool way of like doing this. It is not a spell to like raise the dead. It's just a spell if like somebody was in a coma to like give them more like life and like more health. And so they were like, either way, like it shouldn't do any harm. That was like the whole idea of like, if we do something, we don't want to make it worse. And they're like, and especially, you know, dabbling with like necromancy stuff, you don't want to like kill her instead. Because that was the whole thing is Theo was like, I could kill her and then raise her. And Harry's like, I'm not killing her. Like, so
I loved that whole thing with, well, what if I just cut off your head? And she's like, well, I thought of that, but it sounds inconvenient to just carry my head around everywhere I go.
I know some people from the Headless Hunt, and I know it's inconvenient to carry my head around. God.
Yeah. So they finally decide like that's what they're gonna do. Hermione translates the runes of like the just instructions and stuff like that.
She's on board, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a very specific moment in this part that I like cheered for. And it was the moment that Harry decided that he would do whatever was needed. And he says like, "Oh, whatever you need, like I like whatever you need." And she talks about like she goes like, "Oh, you know, it's a lot." And it was like talking about the process and she's like, "I'm pretty much going to be a leech and like sucking and all this stuff." And he like says like, I will do it." And it was the first time in their relationship where he did something for her rather than her doing something for him.
And he noted that too.
Yeah. And with all of the things that had happened in her past and like her feelings of like needing like just the balance of like relationships and stuff, I loved that it could have been Draco in another life, but I loved that it was Harry in this moment and that she was able to have that relationship. Just like you just
Harry was like, "Yep, nope." She gave up everything for me.
Yep.
She gave up everything to go on the run with me, and I loved that he acknowledged that and was like, "Cool, so it's my turn." You know, I love her, so it's my turn. So.
And you find out that Draco actually couldn't do it, even if he wanted to, because his magic is restricted because he's on probation. So they're like, it wouldn't work anyways. He's like, damn it. But he's like, I'm still going to be there.
So I do not know where this happens, which is a problem. One of the funniest things I have ever read in my entire life was, I believe it was Draco referring to Harry. The entire time he was saying weird things about,
all
you know,
the
like
different names.
all the different names for Harry. This one was he who murdered someone via thorough disarming. And I died laughing. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. Maybe I was just hysterically crying so much.
Yeah, you're looking for any sort of
probably.
But it was so funny. He who murdered someone via thorough disarming. Oh my God, I was freaking dying. No pun intended. Anyway, okay. When did it talk about? Because I'm getting back to depressing Hermione crap. Okay. Yes, in chapter 6, where we're talking about the ritual, they Harry, being the life force, whatever thing that they're doing, instead of, I don't think she knew that it was going to be Harry until the moment of, because they were going to do a familiar, which is, an animal.
Yes.
And they were like, well, where's Crookshanks?
That hurt. That brought tears to my eyes.
So Crookshanks went with her parents to Australia
Yes.
because of the magic signature and stuff like that. They came back. Crookshanks came back with them, and she thinks that in somewhere in that time frame, while her parents were getting her memories back and pressing charges and all of that, Crookshanks wandered out and got hit by a car.
She doesn't know because just all of a sudden
She
their
just
link
felt
snapped.
the connection. Yeah.
He's just gone.
And she never got to
idea
say
how.
goodbye. Yeah. Everybody at the table's like,
And that was the thing. When they
Oh.
start talking about that, I'm like, he didn't. He's gonna come back into the story later. But then she was like, but I felt it snap, and I'm like, oh no, no.
I was so upset.
Let's take more from Hermione Granger.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's
story.
Exactly. I was like, God, she really just has nothing left.
Nope.
She just has
that's where,
nothing. And no one.
again, she's like, I'm dead. I've got
She has
nothing
the
going
chain
on.
from her time turner left.
And I don't know if it was, I don't know what chapter it was said, but it was talking about, she was talking about like, well, I don't really have anywhere to go. Like, Harry's with Theo and Ron lives there. So like, I can't go there. I'm like, my parents can't do that. And she's like, I'm dead. So like, can't really wander around Muggle London. And she's like, I can't do magic. So I can't really do Hogwarts. She's like, I don't have anywhere to go. And he's like, no. It's like,
yeah.
So cute. It's so heartbreaking, but it's so cute. Because I think it's cute because of the way that the story ended. That's why I think it's cute. But anyways, so chapter 7, the ritual. Theo and all of his theatrics is my favorite part of this whole thing because it's a little gory. So you need something to lighten it up.
This was rough for me. I started gagging while I was listening to this chapter. I don't know what it is with gore. Certain gore. I start, I don't
know if you can watch Game of Thrones then.
Yeah. Well, okay, no. Yeah.
Anyways.
Nope.
Theo has a crown of bones.
Oh, yeah.
He's a crown of bones. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of teeth. Like,
oh my God.
Harry's like, I thought, I'm kind of glad because he's like, yeah, some of these teeth have a little bit of magic left in them. And Harry's like, oh, I'm so glad there's a reason you're not just wearing a crown of bones to like have. And so he's like, hey, Hermione, go change into your sacrificial virgin whites. And she's like, they're like, do we really need that? And she's like, what about an unvirgin? And they're like talking, like the banter was kind of funny, lighthearted, because you could just tell tensions are high. People are like nervous. And it was cute.
And then is it her that like she's walking with Draco and she's carrying the pliers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't she?
Like, yeah. So she's got a couple things. She's got a knife. She's got the pliers. Yeah. She's got one other thing with her. And so they're like setting it out on the table. And he's like, she's ignoring him. And he's like, Hermione, please look at me. And she's like, I can't. He's like, why not? And she's like, because you're going to look at me like this will be the last time. He's like, because it might be. It's like, just trying to look at her. But they do a pentagram, which is where like kind of the culty stuff comes.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about.
They do a pentagram in the ground and a big dome of dark black magic covers them as they're like doing this. And this was the part that this is one of those few things that even I was like, that's a little, Draco has to undo the very first healing spell for her rib.
Oh yeah.
That's what he has to do. And so you can hear like the tearing of the skin. And then they take some of that bone and they're grinding it. Like that's the part that was like, the grinding is like what got me.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyways,
mine
that's
is
not
the
enough
next
though.
part.
Yeah, that's not enough. And Hermione had planned for this. And so
is this nope.
she's even
Suck it
like,
up. You're good.
she's like, haha, you would think that I wouldn't be scared of dentists, but
I wrote that
heartbreaking.
down. Oh my, and my heart broke.
Draco's
Eh.
like, of course you'd be like, she in his mind, he's like, of course she'd be scared, like,
Yep.
of everything that her parents have done. But Theo, being the strong, helpful friend, is the one that did it. I thought this was really cute that Theo was the one that did it, and he didn't make
He pulled her
Harry.
teeth out.
Yeah, he didn't make
A tooth
Harry
out.
do it, or Draco. Draco wouldn't have done it. We all know that.
Fuck no.
So he pulled a molar out, like a back
Yeah, and
tooth.
I like that he's pushing her down on her collarbone with his hand, and then by the time like he's really in there, he's got his knee down on her chest, and
he's like
yanking
over
it.
her. Yeah, so he yanks it out. They grind it. They,
And I hate the way it's described. I think that's what got me. I was like, oh no.
So they make a potion with it. That's like the big thing. They're like adding stuff
Yes.
to make like a potion.
It's
Harry,
like Voldemort.
yeah, Harry drinks some, and Hermione drinks some. And then as soon as she's done, I loved this because this I think was a Harry and Theo, like they kind of talked about it. Immediately, Harry gives her some kind of like pain. It's almost like she's high on drugs. Like I keep thinking like morphine, you know, like sometimes you get too much and get like a little loopy. That's like she was immediately given that after she was, because you probably had to like do it in certain steps. And I was like, that's so cute that like they thought about that. They knew. They got her a little pain potion. And yeah, like Draco just like stood there. He's like, okay, things are happening, things to the ground. Theo's chanting and doing all this stuff. And pretty much a big explosion, like stuff, and it goes away. And they're like, oh, okay, did it work? Like, she jumps up and starts doing magic. It just is like running around. Like
giddy.
Yeah, she's
giggling.
so happy. She's a little high.
Yes, I love that she was so happy to be alive
She was just
again.
so happy. Yeah.
Well, oh god, I have it pulled up right here. It's just like, look, Draco, and she just says
Yes.
Lumos, and she's got happy
Yes.
tears,
And he's
and
like,
she's
"Go get
saying
your wand."
thank you. Yeah, she's like, what is it? Thank you, thank you, thank you, as she pulled Potter, into a hug as well, and she's all so excited. He kisses her and says, "Go on," and then she goes and doing magic all around.
She's doing Protagos and
Yep.
like she's doing all these
Patronus. Yeah. Oh, it was
so cute. Yes.
so
and this
freaking
is
cute.
where Harry talks about we're buying a house here in Hogsmeade to like be closer.
Be closer to her. So she can live here while she's still going to Hogwarts.
And Theo talks about like, yeah, and Ron will be like something about Ron. And Draco's like, well, I don't like that. And Harry's like, no, not human Ron. Theo decided to name his ficus Ron.
Yep.
He's like, and it's so nice. And so they're like, Draco, you should, come live with us too. He's like, really? And he's like, yeah. So like, I thought that was a very cute way to like tie it all again, because Hermione was like, I don't have anywhere to go. And Theo makes up a joke about like all of us orphans gotta like stick together, and you as the non-orphan might have to teach us some things, and like is kind of making, light of little jokes and stuff. And Hermione's just in the background doing all of her little magic. And so then Theo and Harry leave. They walk away, and it's just Draco and Hermione, and she's just so happy. And he's like, well, how does it feel to be alive? And she's like, well, I wouldn't know. And he just like
his entire
whole body is like, what? It didn't work. And she's like, I'm realizing, this is where she's like, I'm realizing it was all in my head. It's a mental thing. It's not my body. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
I know what I need to do. And it doesn't talk much about like what else, because then it just goes to like she's going to therapy. He's dropping her off at therapy.
Yep.
I'm like,
yeah,
it's cute.
And he waits for her.
Yeah, he waits.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think I love you. Like, oh,
yeah,
I think I love you too. And it's just like, it was just the way that it wrapped up was just this cute little wholesome little moment of like they're together.
And she's getting help.
He's getting help.
Yep.
He's being supportive. Notice he's not in the room because she doesn't need him to be in the room, but it's good to know that he's outside. And I love that he's like, what am I here for? And me. You're here for me. He's like, that's right. So cute. So cute.
I love it.
I loved this fic. I do. It's a little dark, but I just loved it.
It was sweet. Yes,
was so sweet.
it was.
So
Ah,
good.
as much as it like tore my heart out, at least it was like happy
Yep.
ending.
Yep, it had a very happy ending. Very
Loved it.
giddy.
I
Love
loved it.
that. I
So
did
if
too.
you're looking
It was
for
so
like
good.
something a
Something
little
to
this
hurt.
yeah, just to like give you a little yeah, if you are feeling like you want to cry, this would be a good one because you can either cry from happiness because it's so cute, or you can cry from
Exactly.
tears because it's
Like,
sad.
Yep.
You're right.
your
This is
poison.
the perfect. You'll cry, but at least you won't like. It's not the manacled kind of cry where it's
It's a
just like
different. Yeah.
Yep.
you just hurt and it's never gonna be fixed. No, this fixes you as it's going. So, hey, no one will ever be fixed after reading that.
Right.
So,
I know. Yeah.
man, oh man, it was good. Okay, but it does look. This is part one of
It's a part of a
libations and
series.
desecrations. What?
Wait,
I didn't
it's
know it
a
was part
part
of.
one?
It's part of a series.
Oh.
Let me see if I read the rest of the series.
The next one is not pot. It's about Harry and Theo.
I probably didn't then.
Haha.
Set in the same universe as Tea and Necromancy. While there are references to this earlier work, it's called Whiskey and Malefic. I don't fucking know.
See? Words, I don't know.
Maleficium
It can be
is
said
a
by itself.
dark-humored slice of life romp. If your
I was gonna
life is
say,
in shambles.
It's 2 out of 2,
So-
2 chapters. It's 12,000 words. Super cute.
Ron the
I'm
ficus
assuming.
plant. Oh, I'm dead. That's so fucking funny.
That's awesome.
Anyways,
So I'll be reading this next. I didn't know this was part of
if
a
it's
series.
good, let us know.
Oh no, but it says forced hospitalization and self-harm. So maybe I'm gonna wait a while.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll wait.
Right.
So yeah, Tea and Necromancy, super cute.
Oh,
Read
thank
it.
God. It says happy ending. Okay, that's all I needed to see. I was like, okay, this is too sad. Read it. It's so good. And then it has a little bit of knot pot for, when if
Yeah.
you want more. Ta-da.
There it is, already ready for you. Okay, so like, what else? What else you guys doing? Reading? What's up? Okay, I'll start.
What am I reading?
Okay, listen here. I don't want to, I have been reading a bunch of things actually. And one of the main ones, there's only one more chapter left, guys, and it's coming out soon. And it's I Will Make You Proud by Where Does She Go? And holy shit, guys, people need to read it. People need to read it. It will make you cry.
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle
I'm
that
good.
one.
I'm good.
Oh my
I'm good for
god.
now.
It was
You have
so
told me
good.
plenty.
I can't.
Plenty.
I think this is how you probably feel about House Pet. I feel like I can't
Probably.
stop thinking about it. Like
Yes.
I am
Exactly.
gnawing at the bars of my cage to like get the next chapter. Like,
Yep.
oh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Anyways,
Oh, I
so
wish I was like that.
besides that one, there's let's see. I read a lot of different things in the last couple of days. Glass House by I don't want to say it wrong. It almost looks like Ashlyn, but it's not. Asselin, maybe. It just barely. Today was the first day that she posted like the first 2 chapters. And I'm very excited about it because she also wrote a different fic that I loved. So I was very excited. And then non-fan fiction, I've been on a werewolf shifter kick, and I'm unashamed about that because I'm waiting for the next Ruby Dixon book to come out. So I've got to get like my monster smut in while I can. And so I read Fated to the Alpha Wolf King or something like that. It was good. I'm not gonna lie, but like you know what you're getting into when you get when you read a werewolf shifter book. So like it was good. Yeah. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I'm currently doing.
That's awesome.
Okay.
What are you reading, Tracy?
To no one's surprise, I still have not picked up Son of Neptune or One Dark Window. But I did go to a bookstore. It's the only romance only bookstore in Salt Lake City. Oh my God, it's called Lovebound. I did
Mhm.
go there. And I got 2 books. It's by The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson. It's a hockey romance. It looks really good. I also
Mhm.
bought a Fate Inked in Blood because I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I was like, "Hey, bet that's right up my alley." I also saw a little excerpt thing on TikTok earlier of King of Greed, and I teared up and I went, "Oh, I need to read
Oh
this
my
ASAP."
God, King of Greed will tear your heart out.
I
I
Oh
know.
no.
cried so much during that book.
Yep.
It was so good at the end.
But it
But
hurts to get there.
holy.
Yeah,
Woo,
everyone was like all the comments because apparently
woo.
that was on like page 13. Was
Oh,
that little page that I read. I went, "Oh God, I know what this book's gonna be about." But I've got them all sitting right there. Though I guess it's number
oh.
3, so I need to read King of Wrath
I
first.
know I need to read King of Sloth, which is the 4th one,
Yeah,
which
I
came
do
out
have
pretty
that one.
recently.
Yeah, got that one up there as well. But like, I don't know. I was going through my books because I got different bookshelves, so I've been moving all my books around and I'm like, "Oh, this looks really good. I should read this." So that's what I've been
You
doing.
should.
But I need to finish One Dark Window. For the love of God, I need to finish that fucking book.
Will it motivate you if I start reading it?
No, I might just
No.
give up. I
Okay,
might
so
just
then
give
never
up.
mind.
Like I might be like, "God dang, okay, well she's gonna finish it for me anyway." The Cowboy series by Elsie Silver, I do want to read. I don't even remember what it's called.
Like
The
Heartless, Reckless.
no,
Oh,
the
okay. I'm talking about a different one then.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Elsie Silver Cowboy series. I also want to read that. The end.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. Well, Holly, what about you?
Yeah. What
I'm
are
not
you?
reading a whole lot. I've been reading The Fear of Letting Go now for how many weeks?
You know what? It's
Couple
okay.
weeks.
Just look at me, okay? You're fine.
I'm re-listening to Amor Vincent Omnia and I'm almost done with it again.
Lovely.
I know.
I love
Yep.
that one.
Hey, sometimes you just need that reread, okay?
I need the
You
Ron
do.
bashing in it. That's what I
Yep.
need.
Yep. It's so true. It is. The Ron bashing in that is just spot on. It's beautiful.
And I need it, especially after reading this fic. I didn't get
I
enough of
know.
it.
Yeah.
Like maybe I will read the second one and hope that like Harry gets really mad at Ron for how he was treating Hermione or something. I don't know.
Yes. Right.
Uh, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I was gonna say tune in next week and see if I finished One Dark Window or not.
Next week. No, next week is a pretty exciting, not next week. Stop saying next week. Now you
I
got
know,
me
I'm
saying
sorry.
it.
My bad.
Next time we are going to be talking about the story. It's a long story by The Lies We Tell. It is actually going to be our first work in progress that we're going to talk about on this fic. So on this podcast. So pretty exciting stuff. You get to come along as we talk about the work in progress, and then we will do another episode probably later when it finishes. I don't know how soon, but like it'd be cool to like almost if we did like a couple, and then we just did like one episode where it was like, hey, these ones have finished. Here are our thoughts. I don't know. We'll figure that out. That's a problem for later.
Yeah, because it
Anyways,
depends if the fic gets abandoned, which
Yep.
hopefully it doesn't.
I'll say
But
this was last updated July 2nd. So
I
it's
was gonna say
was
January.
no July 2nd. So it
Okay.
was updated pretty recently.
Does it say how many chapters it's
It
gonna
will be
be?
10. So they
Oh,
have 4
okay.
out of 10 chapters.
Okay.
Hermione Fanfic Fanatics is a fan podcast that discusses and reviews fan fiction written by various authors based on the characters Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series, created and owned by J.K. Rowling. We do not own the rights to the Harry Potter series, its characters, or any of the fan fiction works mentioned in this podcast. The purpose of our podcast is to provide commentary, analysis, and entertainment related to the fan fiction community and to foster a sense of community among fans. We respect the creative efforts of fanfiction authors and consider their works as transformative interpretations of the original source material. All fanfiction works discussed on this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective authors. We aim to provide proper attribution and promote the fanfiction community by linking the author's original works where possible. This podcast is created for entertainment purposes and is not intended to infringe upon the rights of the copyright holders. If you are the author of a fan fiction work discussed on this podcast and would like us to remove or modify our content related to your work, please contact us and we will promptly address your request. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to the terms of this disclaimer.